It's Danny Wallace here. I wrote a book called Hamish and the Worldstoppers. Let's talk about that. It's about a guy called Hamish, obviously. It'd be weird if I'd called it that and there wasn't someone called Hamish in it. And he starts to notice something very weird happening, which is every now and again the whole world just stops, and that's everything. All the cars on the road, all the people walking around, the planes in the air, the insects flying around, cats, everything just stops still, like they're just stuck like statues. And it's everything except Hamish. And Hamish is able to walk around in this world of stuck people. And I thought, wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be brilliant when you're a kid, just to be able to, you can do whatever you want because suddenly you're in charge. You're the only person who can move around and no one can stop you. So Hamish will do things like he'll jump on a moped that he's really not supposed to be jumping on, and he'll just ride around town, or he'll go to the sweet shop and help himself, or he'll do whatever he wants. And so that was the starting idea for me. What would you do if the whole world stopped but you didn't? And then I needed to introduce some bad guys. One thing Hamish needed, though, is a team of friends around him, people who realise also that the world is stopping. So he's got pals like, he's got Buster, who he rides around in an ice cream van. He's got his own ice cream van, and he's brilliant at kind of turning it into amazing things and adding huge wheels and making it go fast. There's Alice, and Alice is cool. She is cool. She's got like a blue streak in her hair. She's a survivor. She knows what's going on in the world, and she'll tell you all about it. There's Elliot. Elliot is he's a bit of a brain box. There's Clover, who thinks she's an amazing master of disguise because she owns one fake moustache, and she can sort of put it here and look a bit like a bank manager, or here and look like a 2,000-year-old Japanese emperor, or here and look like an old lady with a very large monobrow. So Hamish and his team, they have to work out what's going on and how to stop it. The book is set in a town called Starkley, and Starkley, what's an interesting fact? An interesting fact about Starkley is that there are no interesting facts about Starkley. It's a bit of a dull place, not much goes on. The local newspaper is full of extraordinarily boring stories, like a man who found a potato that he thinks looks a bit like a dog, but then he can't find the potato, so you can't even see a picture of it, so he just describes it. And you know, it's the sort of newspaper that you really wouldn't want to read. And Starkley is very much like that. It was voted Britain's 4th most boring town. And even that is more boring than being voted the most boring town, because if you're voted the most boring town, at least you've got an award, not if you're 4th most boring. So Hamish and his pals live in Starkley and do their best. And it really isn't the type of place where exciting things like the world stopping really ever happens. So when the world does start to stop and the bad guys approach, and they're called the Terribles, it's really out of character for Starkley. And now I shall read. Chapter 1. What on earth? Hamish Ellaby's eyes were the size of Satsuma's as he sat completely still in his chair. And he sat completely still because he was totally, utterly petrified. This was so strange. What on earth was going on? Seriously, what on earth? It had all happened in an instant. The scariest, coolest, most awful, most brilliant, most horrible, most wonderful thing. Hamish wanted to get up and look around, but he couldn't. He was too frightened even to move a single muscle. This was incredibly weird. Just a matter of moments ago, gangly Mr. Longblather had been leaning forward onto a desk using just his knuckles the way he always did when he was about to ask Class 4E of Winterbourne School a question. "Who can tell me about soil erosion?" he'd said, and everybody's heart had sunk at once, because if there's anything more boring than soil erosion, then no one's told me about it. Mr. Longblather was one of those particularly boring teachers with a particular talent for making particularly boring subjects even more particularly boring than usual. In this respect, at least, Mr. Longblather was absolutely extraordinary. When the question had been asked, Hamish had stared down at his pencil case and made his special, "Oh, let me think" face. He went his hand through the thick black hair his mum called the mess, and squeezed his huge brown eyes shut like he was really trying to come up with an answer. Sometimes he found this was enough to convince people he was thinking about soil erosion, but fact, Hamish had never really thought about soil erosion. It was not something he was all that concerned about. To be honest, he didn't even know what soil erosion was. "Soil erosion," Mr. Longblather had repeated, now looking a little peeved. "Come on, 4E, soil erosion." Mr. Longbrother then put his hands on his hips and sighed a deep sigh. Hamish kept looking at his pencil case. Surely someone knows something about... And there he had paused. And Mr. Longbrother's pause continued. And it continued. And it continued. And Hamish looked up, and he saw that Mr. Longbrother was completely and utterly still. Frozen. A statue. Immobile. Not moving. Stuck. Stuck. Well, this is odd, thought Hamish.